Hey everybody. In this video we're going to explain a bit more about the basic geometry modeling techniques that we showed in the previous two videos. So for this video I have a fairly simple plane here. As you can see, it's in a two-level plane, nothing too complex, which is ideal for showcasing stuff like this. Alright, so the first thing I want to repeat, something that I actually mentioned previously, is that when you're modeling in 3ds Max, most of the time you're gonna probably use Turbo Smooth. So once you add Turbo Smooth, as you saw previously, it kind of smoothens out the entire model that you have selected, or in this case, as you can see, it now looks kind of like a slope. Well, the way that you can control this slope is by two ways. The first one is by adding extra geometry, and the second one is with the smoothing groups. But just for this video, we're going to simply focus on adding more geometry. And basically, when you want to hold a certain edge, there are two ways that you can do it. The first one would be to simply select the edge that you want to hold. For example, let's say we want to hold this edge, and we simply go ahead and chamfer this. As you can see, with the normal chamfer or the default chamfer, it goes at 1 centimeter and just one segment. Now here's the thing, you might, if you've seen some of my previous videos, you probably are noticing that this time around I'm using a Max 2016. The reason for this is that, well, 2015 and 2016, when you chamfer stuff, it has this extra option over here where it says chamfer type. By default, or not by default, but up until 2015, the only chamfer type that Max offers is the first one, or the standard chamfer. This one, on the other hand, the quad chamfer, is great when you want to chamfer sides that are interlocking with each other, but we're going to see that later on. So for now, I just want to tell you that this option over here is what's new and the reason why I'm in 2016. So when you use chamfer, it takes your single line and divides it into two lines. If you choose to have two segments over here, it is going to retain your middle line and add two extras. So for example, if I leave it up like this, then when I go over to Turbo Smooth, my line is gonna look like this. But make sure you just turn this off. So when I go over here, my line is gonna be a fairly nice slope, continue on downwards, something like this. If I want to have a sharper turn over here, I can instead go and, instead of having just one chamfer one side over here, Control Z, alright, I can select the middle line and chamfer it with two segments. Make them come closer together. So something like 0.2. Press OK, and now when we Turbo Smooth, we get this effect, so much sharper descent. Now here's the thing. This is the first and easier way of doing this. You have also the option to go the manual way, which is more or less you're gonna try to fence it in or put it in some kind of border per se. And that is by simply using the graphite modeling tools, the Swift Loop. You've seen me done it previously, and it basically does exactly that. It is going to let you position loop wherever your mouse is. So one here, for example, and one here. And manually, I've just done the thing that I got the chamfer to do it for me up there. As you can see, since it's not so close to it, like here, it's not so sharp. Alright, so that's the first thing that you want to remember, is that you have the ability to choose the chamfer option, or you can use boxing in or fencing in type, so you can get more sharper edges. Both of them have their strong points and their weak points, and we'll see what they are further on. For now, I want to go ahead and delete this, and I'm gonna go back and basically just undo all the stuff that I did, because I want to reuse this set for one more thing. Let's say that you have one of the more common things that you can end up doing when you're modeling, and that is if you have this edge over here and you have a hole in which you would have some kind of a sprocket or some kind of a bolt or whatever. So you need to have a hole. Two ways of doing this. The first way would be to go ahead and use the compound object and try and Boolean in one hole. Let's see how that would be done. So I'm going to go over standard primitives. I'm going to choose a cylinder. I've said it previously that whenever you're using cylinders or a circle and you want to use it for low level geometry, you want to have at least 8 sides. So 8 sides should be the minimum, because when it's subdivided, it can hold its form quite well. You can have more or you can have less, but it's going to be a problem for you. So you always want to try to have at least 8 sides. All right, so the first thing that you want to do is you want to position where your hole is going to be at. So now I want to have this middle line over here be in line with this edge over here. The easiest way to do this would be, for example, I'm going to go with the move. I'm going to turn on snap. I'm going to right click here and just make sure that I have vertex selected. And also I'm going to go over to, here we go, user grids, and make sure that I have my alignment object space turned off. So this is going to allow me to, when I have my snap turned on, now as you can see, as I'm moving around my mouse around the different axes, they get yellow. So for example, if I click on the Y axis, so I click, now when I move around, it still stays on yellow. That tells me that whenever I try to move, the only axis that this model is going to move is the y-axis. So now I'm going to click here, as you can see over on the vertex on the edge. Click here, and now just pull it over to this side. That is going to put it in line with this vertex. So that means that now it's smack in the middle and they are both aligned. As soon as we have that middle line, I'm just going to select our base over here, and I can go ahead and go compound object, Boolean, click on move and subtraction like this, and you can go start picking. As soon as we click here, we have our hole like this. Now before I do this, I want to show you the other way, and for that other way, I'm just going to simply go ahead on our cylinder as it's already positioned. I'm going to put on an edit poly on top of it, select all of the top edges we have here, and make a shape from that. Make sure it's linear. We don't want to have it smooth, so click on OK, which leaves us, let me just hide selection. Actually, I'm not going to hide it. I'm just going to move it upwards, or anyways, downwards. And what we are left with is this here spline. So once we have a spline in position, what we can do is again select our base. And now instead of using Booleans, I can go ahead and again in the compound object, I can use shape merge. This is going to allow me to pick a shape. And as soon as I click here, that is going to be projected down on my mesh. And as you can see, now I have this spline projected on my mesh, and it has been cut in. So now if I go ahead and put an edit poly on top of it, I can simply delete these, select my border, hold down shift, and just go down like this. This is great as it's giving me the form. Now here's the thing, before I do this, I'm going to Control Z. If I click on one or click on my vertex, you're going to notice that I have some extra vertices over here. So I'm going to Control select all of them and Control backspace or right click and remove. That is going to remove all the unwanted vertices. Again, I'm going to select all of the vertices here and click on settings for weld. Just make sure you have everything welded together so we don't have any problems later on. Again, shift, drag, and we get something like this. Now if we want to have a flat surface for the bottom, I'm simply going to go over with a uniform scale and pull it down on the Z. As you can see, since I'm just pulling it down on Z, it made the bottom flat. So just pull it downwards just a tiny bit more. And now I can use the cap option. Or if I use the cap, then I'm going to be stuck with a big end-on, which in all honesty, it's a really easy thing to fix. All you have to do is select two of the opposite vertices, right click and connect. Then with the cut tool, you can go over here and cut from one side to the other. And as you can see, oops, all right, one side to the other. And if this happens, simply just move your camera a tiny bit. Again, all right. It's, well, Murphy's Law. Something always has to happen. And if this continues to happen, then I can simply go ahead, delete this middle part. I'm going to delete this entire polygon. Again, select the entire base, hold down shift and scale it in once, and scale it in one more time. So now, since I have this second part, I can simply click on collapse, and this is going to collapse it here. If I want to keep this with quads, I can simply select one, then skip one, select one, skip one, Control backspace, and here we go. Now we have nice quads in the middle part over here. All right, so there we go. Nice little cut in. Since we already have this portion centered out, we need to have one more main line, which would be this one over here. Now, we can do this by going ahead and cutting here with the cut tool and going down here as well, but I want to show you another way, or a quicker way. I'm just going to delete this because I no longer need it. And that is, I'm going to select this. I'm going to skip over to my front viewport like this. And here, with my edge selected, I'm going to click on, well, as soon as I find it. Oh, actually, I'm going to go with my vertex selection. And here, I'm going to click on slice plane. So as soon as you click this, what you're going to notice is this yellow line. If you look at your perspective, you're going to see that we have this line over here, or this plane. And as you're moving it around, you're going to notice that wherever this plane is moving, it's leaving a white trail or a white cut-in of edges. So what we want to do here is I want to rotate this for 90 degrees. So make sure it's 90, like this. And now I want to move it on the X scale, on the X. So I'm going to go on my snap and snap it to our middle. As you can see, now it continued that spline down to the edges. I'm going to click on slice and turn off slice plane. So that leaves us with a nice cut in for the middle as well. All right, so now I'm going to select all of my vertices and make sure that everything is welded together. Again, no problems, so everything is working just fine. So now, before I do anything else, I want to add just, well, actually it's okay. Now, if you take a look at all of the polygons that are around this cut-in, you're going to notice that all of them are actually n-gons. You have multiple or five-sided polygons. In order to get away from that problem, all we have to do is select the edge one and this one and go and right-click, connect, or you can simply set up a shortcut for this. I've done it myself, so all I have to do is just select both of them and hit the spline connect. And there we go. Now they're all connected. So all of them are actually quads now. But the problem now is going to be that if I turn on this with a turbo smooth, it's really not going to hold that form too well. As you can see, it really does need a bit more in order to hold that form. And that can be done with the two ways that I previously showed you. We can either fence this in, or I can use the chamfer option. So let's try it with chamfer this time. I'm gonna go ahead and chamfer this with, make sure it's in quad, and put it a smaller amount, something like 0.3. Yeah, this should hold the form much better. And here, I'm just going to put the edge tension to 0.5. This is basically telling the middle line where it should stand. By default, it stays at 1, which makes this a flat surface. When you put it at 0.5, it puts it in the middle, so it gets a bit rounded appearance. So I'm going to click on OK, like this. And now, if I turn on the turbo smooth, you're going to notice this line is held pretty darn well. So no problems here. Let's put it in 3. I'm going to turn off the isolane, and you're going to notice that this thing looks just great. There's no problem or anything of that sort. All right, so for now, I'm going to leave this aside. So I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to turn on my second scene. This scene is a tad bit more complex. Not too much, but we have some different kind of geometry. If I turn on the turbo smooth, you're going to notice that it actually is a very nice looking scene. It's a very smooth scene, doesn't have any sharp edges or anything. So I'm actually going to use this scene to show you how you can have certain edge to go and be sharp, and then as it's approaching the edges, it starts to fade out. What I mean by this is, well, let me show you an image. For example, let's take a look at one of the most used places where you're going to see something like this, and that's cars. As you can see right here on the side of this door, you have this very, very smooth surface. And then all of a sudden, you have this part happening. You have this line coming just out of nowhere. It starts getting sharper and sharper. And as you can see here, it's a very, very well defined, especially on this side. As it comes near this edge, it kind of disappears. So how do we get, how do we make something like this? Well, actually, it's quite a bit easy to do it. So again, I'm gonna select both of these edges. So I can show it to you better. And I'm gonna go ahead and chamfer them. Just make sure that you have enough. It really doesn't matter which kind of chamfer you're gonna use here because it's a straight line. I want to put 2 segments, and I'm gonna get this to be very, very tight so you can see that I'm gonna go with something like 0.2. All right, so now, well, just for reference, let's go and do the same thing to the bottom one as well. It will be easier to see. All right, so now if I put a turbo smooth, you're gonna notice right away that it is very, very well defined and a very sharp line, which can be seen on the highlights from our reflection. So now how do we get this to transition from this sharp line and to go to something that is going to be much less tense? Well, first thing you need to understand is that the sharpness comes from the tension between all of these edges. So if you want to get this to look a bit more relaxed, we need to relax the distance between all of these edges. Now, Max has this built-in option with the, well, and I think that's newer than 2010. When you go over in your modeling ribbon, as I have these guys selected, so just the ones on the sides, not the middle edges, I'm going to click on this option where it says Set Flow. Now this is going to take these edges that I have selected and it's going to try to average them out depending on the distance it's between the rest of the edges. So let's see what happens here. I'm going to click on Set Flow. And you're going to notice that all of those edges kind of got pulled aside. Now, I don't want to have this happening here so drastically, so I'm going to select both of these. So just so I'm fairly certain I don't screw up my edge flow, I'm going to put on my constraints. So in the Edit Geometry, I'm going to turn on Edge Constraint and simply move it inwards like this. Same thing here. So this is going to move your vertices, but it's not going to screw up your edge flow. So now take a look at what happens when I turn on Turbo Smooth. Here is that thing that we saw on the car. We have this smooth surface, and all of a sudden that smoothness converges over here and becomes this very, very tight line. So we can do the same thing with the top line, or this guy over here. Again, just select these guys, hit the Set Flow, and just notice that how it's going to put it in the middle over here now. So Set Flow, it's putting it in the middle. As you can see, now it's different because the distance between this side over here and this side, it put it here. On the other hand, this upper portion here, it moved it way up. Now, this brings another very good point, and that is when you're modeling, you want to try to keep all of your polygons more or less spaced out at the same distance. So in this case, it would probably be a better option if I just go ahead and put in one extra edge over here. So we more or less have the same size for our polygons. So again, let's go ahead and do the same thing here. Select this one and this one. Set Flow again. And select these vertices. Lower them down. Just get them together. And now, once we turn on Turbo Smooth, you're going to notice that same thing happening here as well. Now, if you don't want to have this dip over here, again, you can just, whoops, nope. You can simply just relax them more by moving these edges away from each other, something like this, and averaging them out. And now we're going to have less tension on this side, and we're going to have a nicer, smoother flow. All right, here it is. So let's go ahead and do the same thing we did on the previous, the previous model, where we actually put a cylinder here as a hole. But this time around, we're going to see how we can use that same cylinder, but instead of just drilling a hole, we're going to try to retain its shape while it's put on this very, very sharp edge. So again, let's go ahead and use either a cylinder, or in this case, I'm going to use a circle. Well, I'm going to just put it on my side. Circle. All right, here's another thing. When you're drawing out a circle, it usually always comes up just like this. So it's a very smooth looking circle. All you have to do is come down to the interpolation and decrease the steps to 1. And it's going to leave you with a very nice and clean 8-sided circle. So come on, move it upwards up here on the, on the X. Okay, I'm going to move it and position it like we saw we did previously on the edge. So there we go. Let's see, just it's the right one. Yes, it is. All right. I'm going to go ahead and come down and delete this. Turbo smooth. Come down and from the compound object, go shape merge, make a shape, and project it downwards. But before I do this, just so I make it easier on myself, I'm actually gonna go, all right, and delete both of these edges. So Control backspace, and now shape merge, pick a shape, and project it downwards here. All right, again, right click, convert to an editable poly. Delete this. Again, make sure we don't have any extra vertices. As you can see, I have some over here. Select them all the extras that you don't need. Control backspace. And I'm going to select all of these vertices over here, go with the weld. And as you can see, from 77, they drop down to 72. So that means I'm not going to have any double vertices as I have here, as you can see. So Control, backspace. Just need to make sure that I'm really clean, because it's going to be a pain trying to deal with something that's really not visible here. So again, increase. All right, no problem so far. All right, so we have to do the same thing that we did previously. We just need to add one more division up here. So again, I'm gonna jump in with our slice plane. So slice plane, rotate it for 90 degrees, and move it into position on here with the snap. So as you can notice, it goes all the way. So slice, turn off slice plane. All right, let's go ahead and select all of these guys, delete, hold down shift, pull it downwards, again scale it upwards so it gets flat, where I can just make planar, but still this works just fine. Again, I'm gonna use hold down shift and scale it in once and twice and collapse. That's going to leave me with this form. I'm gonna again select all of these guys, control backspace, and there we have quads at the bottom. So here's the thing now. Again, we need to go ahead and connect all of the these sides to the sides of our form over here. Again, once, twice. Just make sure you select the right one, so you don't want to select the middle part, but you just want to get the one on the edge. All right, so we have all of those selected. So now, if we turn on Turbo Smooth, you're going to notice that we have just a bit of a mess going on here, because this hole is not held well because it doesn't have the support edges we need to add. So let's go ahead and add those. So I'm going to go and I'm going to select all of the edges on the side, chamfer them, and here I'm going to go and use the quad chamfer, put it at 0.5, and let's try 0.3. Right, for distance, click on OK. All right, so if I start a Turbo Smooth now, you're going to notice that the edges are held pretty well together. But the problem here now is that as this side, or this sharp edge, converges to the edge of our sharp cylinder, it kind of loses that sharpness, and then it's no longer sharp here. So the problem is, how do we make this continue on to the other side? Well, if you remember, before I inserted this a hole here, I actually went ahead and deleted both of these edges. So now, in fact, we have an end-on here. Now, if I go ahead and simply just, well, continue this like so, and chamfer this, again, put it something like, I don't know, smaller chamfer, 0.2, 0.2 should work. Let's, well, we need to clean up this a tad bit. So weld those two together, delete those two, and we're left with something like this. And now if I Turbo Smooth, you're going to notice this. We have this line coming to the edge and then continuing onwards, and everything looks just fine. But does it? If you take a look at our inner part, you're going to notice this very, very sharp line going on the side. This is something that we want to, well, not have on our model. We want to retain this form, or we will retain the smoothness of the form, but also retain the sharpness of this edge. So we need to fix this. So in order to fix this, I'm going to go ahead and Control Z back before I actually did the chamfer like this. All right, so here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to select this edge over here, and then I'm actually not going to go with the chamfer. I'm going to go with the cut tool. So vertex cut from this edge over here. Whoops. From there to here. From there to there. Now here's a thing. You want to come over here, go down to the middle one, and converge it to the third one or the end one. And then cut, cut, and cut. So here we're actually left with two triangles. I want to remove this middle part over here, so I'm actually left with a diamond shape quad at the edge. Now, diamonds are really great when you have geometry that's supposed to make a sharp turn, and this is what I'm talking about. As soon as I turn on the Turbo Smooth, you're gonna notice that now the inner part here, it's very smooth, while the edge, as it comes to the this triangle here, it's retaining that shape. Now, the reason for this happening is this triangle or this diamond shape that we placed here. So we're going to do the same thing for this side. Again, so with the cut tool, I'm going to cut from the middle, or actually the end one, to the middle, to the outer one, and to the edge. Whoops. Okay. Again, this side, over here, and to the edge over here. I'm going to move this, just make sure that I have, whoops. Okay. And make sure you leave this as a diamond by Control Backspace on this edge. And when we go to the Turbo Smooth, we actually end up with a form like this. So if you take a look at what we have so far, we have this perfectly done indentation on our very, very sharp edge, and we kept the edge, and also as that edge is coming to the middle, it's kind of losing its strength and slowly starting to be a very, very smooth surface. So all in all, that's a very nice technique to know and how to control your shapes. So we can cut the video short here, or actually I want to go ahead and do one more model, and that is basically the model that we worked on in our second video, which is basically this one. So here it is. This is the model that we exported out with the compound objects, where we just placed two more spheres. So how do we go about getting this to work out with a Turbo Smooth? As it is right now, if I put a Turbo Smooth on, it kind of ends up being a big load of nothing. So let's go ahead and use everything that I showed you here in this video and get this to be a nice turbo smoothing model. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and try and add the middle parts with the slice curve. So the slice plane. So slice plane, I'm going to go and rotate this for 90 degrees. I'm going to move it in the middle like this. Make sure everything is selected. Slice. Now rotate it this way around for 90 degrees. Move it on the side with the snap turned on. Just move it in the middle. Again, slice. And what we want to do here is, now we want to go ahead and do a few more slices on the edges of this box. So down here would go one slice. We would need to have one more here, but actually if I do it like this, it's going to give me this extra edge that I'm going to have to clean up later on. So I'm going to go with the cut and actually put that manually in. So I'm going to go like this. Again, 90 degrees, put it on this side. And this here line is really not that important, as this is the way Max is trying to make heads and tails on how to deal with this engon in the middle of its polygon. So here, manually, let's just put in this slice. One more time like this. I'm going to put it on the side like this. And now here's the interesting part. When you put it here, you can see that we have this slice going on the edges over here, but we're also putting it in here. So in the inner part of our indentation. So make sure you notice that. So I'm going to slice this. And again, just get it to this side one more time. and we're getting near to the end. All right, now I can turn off my slice plane. And first of all, I'm gonna delete our middle part over here. So Control Backspace. And now I'm gonna go and connect both of these. So again, I'm using my shortcut. For this, I'm gonna have to go with the cut tool because I have this middle part over here. So again, cut, and those are connected. This one really doesn't really need to be here. So Control Backspace. Again, Control Backspace. And actually, I think, yep, I'm missing one cut in the middle. So again, with the slice plane, 90 degrees. Come on, 90 degrees. All right, put it in the middle, like this, and slice it. Turn off slice plane, there we go. No longer have any issues. So what we're left with is just having to clean up a bit of edges. So here I'm actually missing one edge. So let's go ahead and try to add it manually like this. Nope. I'm going to try to fence it in like this. So put one here, edge, put another one here. So between these two guys, if you put your cursor, you're going to be able to use one. It's a bit tricky. So there we go. So we have these two lines. Again, this is going to work like this over here. And with the cut, I'm going to cut from this to here to here. There we go. Now that thing is continuing. And I'm going to have to do the same thing down here. Click. Okay. That works just fine. Cut. And cut to the bottom. So this should help me retain that edge. So now click and connect, click, connect, click, connect. This last one here, whoops, I think I might actually have one extra. Yep, I do. So for this, I'm gonna go and target weld this bottom one. All right, now we're gonna see as soon as I turn on Turbo Smooth, it's gonna give me a rough estimate of what I should expect. Well, all in all, we're getting some nice results, especially except for this part, but we still haven't done anything to this. So first thing, I'm gonna go and delete these four guys over here, so we end up with quads in the middle. So delete, select the edge that we want to have it to be sharp. Go with the chamfer. Make sure it's a small amount chamfer, like 0.2. Work just well for us. And if I turn on Turbo Smooth now, on the edge here, yeah, this just works just great. So all we have to do here is do the same thing for this part over here. So again, select both of those, Control Backspace, can connect those two. And as you can see, slowly our entire model is coming to look like it's supposed to look proper. So now I'm gonna go select all of these edges, chamfer them like this, 0.2, so we retain that sharpness we have on the other side. And again here, let's use the same trick that we used with the diamond for the edge. So from here, the outer one, inner one, center, outer, connect. Select this piece over here in the middle, Control Backspace, and as you can see, we have the diamond shape again. Go over to the other side, cut, outer, middle, inner, middle, outer edge. Delete the one in between the inner and the middle. You're left with a diamond shape. Again, now when we put turbo smooth on with a couple of iterations and an isoline display, we actually end up with geometrically correct model that has some complex shapes running across it. And with this, we're actually done. So, if you guys enjoyed watching this video, then don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, as it really helps a lot. And that would be it for this video. And when it comes to geometry, I can probably go on and talk for hours and hours and always have something else to explain. And we'll see. Maybe if I get some more free time, I actually might make a few more videos like this. But all in all, I really do hope you guys actually had fun and you managed to learn something by watching this video. So for now, you guys take care, and I'll see you all in the next video.